We've looked at the first 3 questions, and we want to speak to the 4th one today. And let's see how much we can cover. Okay, so the question reads, question 4 reads, Oluwole Co, a medium-sized audit firm in Lagos, Nigeria, recently underwent a strategic expansion to accommodate a growing client base that includes international and public interest entities. In an attempt to align its quality practices with international standards, the firm began implementing the requirements of ISQM 1 and ISQM 2. During an internal quality inspection, several significant quality issues were discovered. A. Key audit working papers were incomplete, unsigned, or poorly documented. Audit conclusions were not clearly linked to audit evidence. B. The firm accepted a complex multinational client, Globe Foods Limited, without performing a documented risk assessment or consulting its technical experts. C. Junior staff with little IFRS knowledge were assigned to high-risk engagements without supervision. D. Engagement quality reviews, EQRs, were either conducted after the audit opinion was signed or not at all. Although recurring deficiencies had been noted from previous inspections, there was no evidence of root cause analysis or formal remediation. F. The firm had not updated its quality control manual to reflect the changes introduced in ISQM 1 and ISQM 2. This situation has raised serious concerns among the firm's leadership, especially with an external review from the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria scheduled within the year. Required. A. Identify and explain the key deficiencies in the firm's system of quality management as described in the case. 7 marks. B. What steps should Oluwole Co take to correct these deficiencies and enhance their system of quality management? 5 marks. C. According to ISQM 1, what role does leadership play in ensuring quality, audit quality, and how is it deficient in this case? 4 marks. D. Why are engagement quality reviews important, and when are they required under ISQM 2? 4 marks. All right. So we have a question that tests the firm's compliance with the new suite of quality management standards. ISQM 1 speaks to system of quality management, and ISQM 2 speaks to engagement quality reviews, which replaced the old ISQC 1. It requires identifying the breakdown in the firm's system and outlining corrective actions. Okay, so general observations about this question. You will see that the question is anchored on ISQM 1. ISQM 1 speaks to the system itself, and ISQM 2 also speaks to the specific EQR, which is the engagement quality review, and it's focusing on the 8 components of a quality management system. So those are the core standards tested. And the scenario, you see that the case provides six clear examples from A to F of breaches, not breach, sorry, breaches. That's contraventions covering the entire audit cycle from acceptance to completion and monitoring. And this ensures a comprehensive, I think, solution. So if you look at the solution, you'll see that the suggested solution directly maps the deficiencies of the component of ISQM 1 and 2. So for example, client acceptance, resources, engagement performance, monitoring, and provides practical ISQM compliant corrective steps. So the solution is of great quality, and we'll speak to the solution very short, succinct, and direct in its presentation on how the examiner wants us to replicate our answers. Okay, so for the part A, we have 2 prompts: identify and explain the key deficiencies. So you identify first, then you explain. And you have a whopping 7 marks allocated to that question. So what do you write? You need to link each point from A to F in the scenario to a specific component of the ISQM1 and ISQM2 model. The key deficiencies are in engagement performance. If you look at A to D, you'll see that A speaks to client acceptance, B speaks to resources, and monitoring and remediation, E to F. So that's what we should write. Our thoughts should center around that. And how do you write it? Clearly state the deficiency. So for example, inadequate documentation, and explain why it is a breach. And why is it a breach? It fails to provide sufficient appropriate audit evidence for the opinion, violating the engagement performance component. So that's how you write that, simple and succinct. And then the B part, the prompt asks us to provide steps. What steps should Oluwole take to correct these deficiencies and enhance their system of quality management? All right, so for this one, the steps to correct these deficiencies and enhance the system is 5 marks. So what do you write? You need to focus, or you should be, I think, forward-looking. You should be forward-looking, and your thoughts should be around writing mandatory actions directly addressing the deficiencies in Part A. So focus on procedural steps around policy update, formal risk assessment, mandatory EQR timelines, and root cause analysis. So how do you write that? Use clear, very crystal clear action verbs like update, formalize, strengthen, conduct. So those verbs will help explain your points around trying to present a corrective plan, a corrective action plan that aligns with the principles of a risk-based quality management system. That's very important to take note of. So the answer is replete. There is a plethora of answers here for you to practice with. So that's generally how you should submit your thoughts, in my opinion. And for the C part, we have the prompt asking us to, according to ISQM1, what role does leadership play in ensuring audit quality, and how is it deficient in this case? Okay. So we have a 4-mark question on leadership's role under ISQM1 and deficiency. So what to write? The role of leadership speaks to management. That's the role. What is the role of leadership? Management and governance. Management and governance. Under ISQM1 is critical to establishing the tone at the top. So strategic direction, the tone at the top, and the culture of quality emanates from the top. So management must prioritize quality over commercializing their job. So very important to take note that the governance aspect of that firm must prioritize quality over commercialization or commercialism. Trying to get the correct words. So it's key because it ensures resources are available and take responsibility for the system's effectiveness. And how do you write that? Define the role based on ISQM1's principles. So the deficiency is shown by leadership's failure to act on recurring deficiencies and a clear lack of oversight in client acceptance and resource allocation. So that's how you write that very succinctly. The answers are very direct, examiner provided. And for the D aspect, why are engagement quality reviews important and when are they required under ISQM2? Okay. So for the D aspect, EQR importance and requirements under ISQM2, which is 4 marks. What do you write? Now you see that your thoughts should center around the importance of the engagement quality review, which is functional as a final and objective safeguard against audit failure, particularly in high risk or judgmental areas. So the requirement under ISQM 2 is that the EQR must be completed during the audit report. The EQR must be completed before the audit report is signed, especially for public interest entities. They have to complete the EQR has to be completed. And on no account should the audit report be signed without the EQR taking place, especially for public interest entities. So how do you write that? You need to explain the purpose of EQR. One central purpose or objective of EQR is objective evaluation of judgments in that audit report. Then in writing, you need to write around the conditions when the EQR is required. So for public interest entities, high risk engagements, or when required by law or the firm's internal policy. So that's how you write the answers for this D part. Okay, so generally to earn these marks, there are some strategies you need to employ. You need to, number one, try to use the ISQM terminology. Ensure that the answers use, you need to employ ISQM 1 frequently, ISQM 2 frequently, and you need to refer to specific components like the client acceptance, resources, monitoring, and governance. You need to inject that into your answer practically so the terminologies would resonate with the marker. Also link theory to the case to some extent. Every answer must directly link a principle. So, for example, leadership's responsibility to a fact in the case. And for example, the failure to act on recurring deficiencies. You are linking theory to the case. Then you need to provide implementable advice. So for the part B, it requires implementable professional steps. I used to use the word actionable before, but I'm very frequent on LinkedIn. So a professional in the US told me actionable is a word that you use in the court, that it's not really nice. She now gave me a dictionary definition, and that woman really convinced me. So anytime I'm doing my audit report, I hardly use the word actionable. She'll tell you a synonym. She told me a synonym is implementable. The actionable sounds more of a court word. I was like, wow, I didn't really know. So most of my posts, some of you that follow me on LinkedIn, you will see that I've edited actionable. I hardly use actionable in my terms. So I just remembered her now, and I just began smiling. Normally, if I'll share some thought, I'll say actionable advice, but no. She told me that very erudite professional in the US, she's very good at all these English terms when you use on audit reports. So the strategy I'm talking about is implementable advice. So professional steps suitable for an audit firm preparing for an FRCN review should provide implementable steps to help them mitigate any issues FRCN may point out when they come. All right, so specific guidance on each question's marking key based on the marking key now. The part A is 7 marks, so aim for at least 5 distinct points. Link the scenario to the ISQM failure, then ensure you have or submit essential points around number 1, documentation, which is key, is incomplete. So your thoughts should center around that. Number 2, client acceptance. There's no risk assessment. You should point that out. Number 3, resources. Unqualified staff, no supervision. Your thoughts should center around that. Number 4, EQR compliance was late and even missing. And number 5, monitoring. There was no root cause analysis. All this was provided in the case. So these 5 points should provide you with 7 marks. Also, you have to identify and also explain. Therefore, the B part, you need to be mark conscious around the 5 marks to earn. You need to focus on corrective actions for the systemic failure. So key steps around this should be, the first step is policy update for ISQM 1 and 2. So there should be update on the policy of the company to be able to capture this and also ensure the policy is not just by design, but by effectiveness is working. Number 2 is formal client acceptance. There should be risk-based assessments to ensure that the client is formally assessed for any risks that may come with the client. Number 3 is enhanced training and supervision. Number 4, enforcing EQR before signing the audit report based on ISQM 2's requirement. And also mandatory root cause analysis should be provided for remediation of most of the issues. And for part C, which is 4 marks, you need to point out and cover the leadership's role around setting the culture, the tone at the top, strategic direction, ensuring resource allocation and monitoring, and also accountability. You see that the deficiency is a visible failure to enforce standards and act on known poor or deficient quality. So those are the points around picking the part C's 4 marks. And finally, for the part D, 4 marks was allocated. You need to earn your marks around providing points on the importance that covers objectivity, risk reduction, and evaluation of significant judgments. EQR is required by ISQM 2 specifically for public interest entities, and where the firm's risk assessment deems the engagement high risk, highly risky. So those are my thoughts on generally how you should be able to be guided on the marking key. Please be mark conscious, and as you practice, try to ensure that you maximize the marks. Be very mark conscious, please. And another area is we need to look at concepts and principles tested and how to study. The exam question may not come directly like this, it will come in another way, but I'm very certain he will test this new quality management standard, maybe in another way twisted. So don't cram these questions. Be rest assured it won't come directly like this. He will twist it, so if you cram it, you get confused. But just understand the concepts and the principles, and you'll be able to apply it practically to any case scenario. So you see that the concept and principles tested and how you should study around this is the question tests the fundamental shift from the old quality control standard, which is ISQM 1, to the new quality management standard, ISQM 1 and 2. The first area is system of quality management, which is ISQM 1. See that the core principle is that firms must adopt a risk-based approach to quality control or quality management. That is, they need to proactively identify and mitigate risks to audit quality across the 8 components. Number 1, the first component is governance. 2, risk assessment. 3, ethics. 4, acceptance. 5, resources. 6, performance. 7, information and communication. And 8, monitoring. So those are the 8 components of quality management based on ISQM 1. Number 2 is engagement quality review. And this principle based on ISQM 2 is objective oversight for the most sensitive engagements. The EQR must be a contemporary review of the engagement team's judgment and conclusions, and it must be completed before the report date. So it's very important to take note of that. The EQR must be a contemporary review of the engagement team's objective and conclusions, which must be completed before the report date. And number 3 is the documentation. Documentation is based on ISA 230, and the principle that working papers must be sufficient and appropriate to provide evidence for the audit opinion and the record of audit processes. I inserted something based on this ISA in that document. I inserted that if it is not documented, it wasn't done, which is a normal principle. So please understand that documentation is very key in quality management. So to study around this, you must focus on the 8 components of ISQM 1. ISQM 1, which is the quality management system. Also focus your studies around the mandatory requirements for EQR under ISQM 2, talking about who, what, and when, or who, when, and what. So the mandatory requirement of EQR under ISQMC is very important for you to take note of. And the role of leadership in setting the quality culture, the tone at the top, is very, very important. All right, so let's look at from the study text, which chapters was tested. Please interject freely if you have any questions. That's our culture here. You have any issues, you have any concerns, observations, comments, recommendations, please go ahead and interject freely. If your hands are up, maybe it didn't flash, please just go ahead and stop me so we could take your thoughts quickly. Okay, so I was saying the chapters that were tested based on the AAA new study text, and this question 4 tested practically and directly explicitly chapter 5, quality management for professional firms and engagement practice management. Very importantly, it tested quality control or quality management, ISA 220, ISQM 1, ISQM 2, changes in a professional appointment. Then it also tested some aspects of current issues, chapter 15, we'll come to that, around ethical issues, which is related to quality culture. It tested a bit of that implicitly. And it also tested implicitly some aspects of audit evidence, which is audit documentation based on ISA 230. All right, so those 3 chapters, chapter 5, chapter 15, and chapter 8 was what, or where question 3 cropped up from. Sorry, question 4, I beg your pardon, cropped up from. All right, so that's it. Those are my thoughts generally on question 4. Any questions? So we could run. Any questions? Any contribution? Any observation?